Welcome and good evening. My name is Glitch Please, and today we're talking about Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. A game where you play as humanity's finest genetically modified super soldiers who spend their days committing xenocide in the name of the Corpse Emperor. It's basically what happens when you mix religious fanaticism with a gym membership and unlimited ammo. Now, some of you might remember the first Space Marine game from 2011, where Captain Titus almost single-handedly fought off an orc Wa while dealing with political intrigue that would make Game of Thrones look like a children's book. Well, he's back, and this time he's facing the Tyranids, basically space locusts with a hive mind and an insatiable hunger for anything that moves. And if that wasn't enough, there's a touch of chaos thrown in too, because no galactic meat grinder is complete without some screeching cultists and reality-warping demons. The game follows Titus, who's now a Primaris Marine. Think of it like getting a software update, but instead of fixing bugs, you just get bigger and angrier. It's the biological equivalent of buying more computer memory, except the computer memory is made of pure, concentrated masculinity and religious fanaticism. He's joined by two battle brothers, Gadriel, a Primaris Marine who treats the Codex Astartes like it's his Bible, Constitution, and Tinder profile all rolled into one. This man follows rules with the dedication of a German train conductor. Then there's Charon, whose personality can best be described as competent background noise. He's like that reliable friend who shows up to help you move, but never initiates conversations.
Now let's talk about the actual plot, because Space Marine 2's story is like a 40K greatest hits album. It has all the classic themes of betrayal, redemption, and making terrible decisions for noble reasons. The story opens with Titus having been crossed the Rubicon Primaris, essentially getting a biological upgrade that turns him into an even more efficient killing machine. He's now serving with the Ultramarines again, but everyone's treating him like that friend who went to rehab, supportive but watching for signs of relapse. This is because between games 1 and 2, Titus spent some quality time with the Inquisition, getting his loyalty verified through methods that probably violated several Geneva Convention articles. The main threat comes from Hive Fleet Leviathan, a Tyranid swarm that's decided the planet Kadaku would make an excellent all-you-can-eat buffet. The Tyranids have already consumed most of the planet's surface and are working their way through the remaining human populations like they're clearing a Steam library backlog. But because this is 40K, there's always a secondary threat, and this time it's a chaos cult led by a 1,000-sun sorcerer named Imura. This guy has been playing the long game, using the Tyranid invasion as cover while he searches for something called the Aurora Data. Basically a MacGuffin that could potentially allow Chaos forces to corrupt entire Space Marine chapters from within. The plot thickens when we meet Captain Akaran of the Angels of Death, who's been hunting this Aurora data for decades. Akaran is voiced with the kind of gravitas that suggests he practices his dramatic speeches in the mirror every morning. He's like that professor who takes himself way too seriously, but is genuinely knowledgeable about his subject. Except his subject is killing heretics. The first act involves the classic 40K structure of defend this position while everything goes wrong. Titus and his squad are tasked with evacuating Imperial forces from various installations while fighting off waves of Tyranids. It's like playing tower defense, except the towers are Gothic cathedrals and the enemies want to literally eat your DNA. During these missions, we see Titus struggling with his new role and the suspicion of his battle brothers. Gadriel in particular treats every decision Titus makes like it might be evidence of chaos corruption. Their relationship is the military equivalent of a trust fall exercise, except failure means eternal damnation. The turning point comes when the squad discovers that the Chaos cult has been using the Tyranid invasion as a distraction while they perform rituals to summon a greater demon. Because apparently fighting space locusts wasn't apocalyptic enough, they needed to add demons to the mix. It's like ordering a pizza and then adding pineapple, gasoline, and plutonium as toppings. This is where Imura reveals his master plan, which involves using the Aurora data to corrupt Primaris Marines during their creation process. Essentially, he wants to create Chaos Space Marines from scratch rather than having to recruit them the old-fashioned way through daddy issues and peer pressure. It's like a corruption assembly line, but with more tentacles. The climax takes place in a massive battle against the Tyranid swarm, while dealing with the chaos corruption that's been festering beneath the surface. Rather than fighting both factions simultaneously, you're primarily facing the endless Tyranid hordes, while the chaos threat manifests through story beats and key antagonist encounters. It's like trying to exterminate a roach infestation while your upstairs neighbor is practicing dark magic. Technically separate problems, but they're both making your day significantly worse. Akaran's character arc reveals that he's been so obsessed with hunting chaos corruption that he's started seeing it everywhere, including in loyal servants like Titus. He represents the institutional paranoia that keeps the Imperium functional, but also slowly destroys anyone with a conscience. His final confrontation with Titus is basically a philosophical debate conducted through the medium of chainsaw combat. The resolution involves Titus proving his loyalty, not through words or tests, but through actions that demonstrate his commitment to protecting humanity, even when the system questions his motives. It's a surprisingly mature take on the theme of institutional trust, wrapped in a package of gratuitous violence and religious imagery. Gadriel's character development from suspicious rookie to trusted battle brother provides the emotional core of the story. His story is essentially learning that following the rules blindly isn't the same as understanding their purpose. It's like that moment when you realize your parents' advice actually made sense, except instead of life lessons, it's combat doctrine. The ending sets up future conflicts while providing closure to Titus's redemption story. He's finally accepted back into his chapter, not because he's proven he's not corrupted, but because he's demonstrated that even if he were corrupted, he'd still choose to do the right thing. It's the 40K equivalent of character growth, which is impressive given that most 40K characters have the emotional development of concrete blocks. What makes the story work is how it treats the characters' relationships as seriously as the action sequences. The dialogue between Titus, Gadriel, and Charon feels like actual military banter rather than exposition delivery systems. They argue about tactics, joke about their equipment, and gradually develop the kind of trust that comes from shared trauma and mutual respect.
Let's talk about the combat system, because this is where the game really shines like a freshly polished bolt shell. The melee combat operates on what I call the chainsaw principle. If regular swords are good, then swords with motors are better. It's the same logic behind monster trucks, heavy metal music, and American foreign policy. Your chainsword doesn't just cut enemies, it processes them. Each swing sounds like an industrial accident set to Wagner. The execution animations are so gratuitously violent that they make Mortal Kombat look like a Disney movie. I watched Titus perform a finisher on a Tyranid warrior that involved literally ripping its head off, and I swear I heard my graphics card whisper a quiet prayer. But wait, there is more. You can also eviscerate the enemies of the God Emperor with combat knives, thunder hammers, power gloves, and power swords, and this are only the melee weapons. The arsenal is appropriately excessive. The bolt pistol doesn't just shoot bullets, it shoots explosive justice dispensers. Each round is roughly the size of a Red Bull can, and explodes with the enthusiasm of a Michael Bay film. The sound design makes every shot feel like you're personally introducing each enemy to their deity of choice. The heavy bolter is what happens when someone asks, what if we made a machine gun but for space marines? The answer, apparently, is a weapon that fires explosive rounds at a rate that would make an A-10 Warthog jealous. Using it feels like conducting an orchestra, if the orchestra was composed entirely of explosions and the sheet music was written in blood. Then there's the plasma gun, which operates on the principle that if something is worth shooting, it's worth shooting with contained stellar material. It's like having a handheld piece of the sun, which is both awesome and deeply concerning from a workplace safety perspective.
Speaking of workplace safety,
I once worked at a chemical plant where the safety briefing consisted of pointing at a sign that said, "Try not to die," in Comic Sans font. The irony wasn't lost on anyone when the plant manager lost 3 fingers to a conveyor belt while explaining proper safety procedures. He kept his job though, because apparently digit-based discrimination is still legal in some states. This has nothing to do with Space Marine 2, but I thought you should know that industrial accidents are funnier when they happen to authority figures. Now let's discuss the Tyranids, because these creatures represent everything wrong with evolutionary biology taken to its logical extreme. Imagine if Darwin's theory of evolution was written by someone with severe anger management issues and a fetish for biomechanical horror. The basic Hormagaunts move like a living carpet of teeth and bad intentions. They swarm with the coordination of army ants, but with significantly more murder. Fighting them is like playing whack-a-mole, except the moles are trying to eat your face, and there are several hundred of them. Tyranid warriors are the middle management of the swarm, smarter than the basic troops but not quite evolved enough to question why they're throwing themselves at heavily armored super soldiers. They carry bioweapons that shoot living ammunition, because apparently regular bullets weren't organic enough for their taste. The Carnifex is basically what happens when evolution decides that subtlety is for cowards. It's a living battering ram with the temperament of a honey badger and roughly the same survival instincts. Fighting one is like arm wrestling a freight train, technically possible but not recommended for your long-term health.
Apparently, fighting an endless swarm of space locusts wasn't challenging enough. The game also throws chaos forces at you in the second half of the game. These are humans who decided that worshipping eldritch abominations from the warp was a solid career move. It's like joining a multi-level marketing scheme, except instead of selling essential oils, you're selling your soul to entities that view reality as more of a suggestion than a rule. Chaos cultists are basically what happens when you take regular humans and expose them to too much cosmic horror and not enough therapy. They fight with the desperate enthusiasm of people who know they're already damned, but figure they might as well take some Space Marines with them. They're like angry protesters, but instead of holding signs, they're holding lasguns and muttered prayers to the dark gods. The Chaos Space Marines are where things get interesting, because these are your former brothers who decided that serving the Emperor wasn't edgy enough. They're like that friend from high school who discovered death metal and made it their entire personality, except they can also summon demons. Their armor is covered in spikes, skulls, and what I can only assume are very negative Yelp reviews of the Imperium. Chaos sorcerers represent the pinnacle of "I studied the blade" energy, except instead of studying the blade, they studied forbidden knowledge that drives mortals insane. They throw around psychic powers like they're having a temper tantrum with reality itself. Fighting them is like arguing with someone who's read too much philosophy. Technically, they might have a point, but mostly they just make your head hurt. Then there are the demons, which are beings of pure emotion and malice made manifest, which explains why they're so good at their jobs. The Tzeentch demons are scheming and manipulation given physical form. Imagine the most passive-aggressive office politics you've ever experienced, but the co-workers can materialize in your living room with reality-bending powers and an agenda that spans millennia.
The cooperative modes deserve special attention because they understand that the best way to experience 40K is with friends who share your questionable life choices. The campaign co-op lets you experience the story with up to 2 other people, which is perfect for those moments when you need someone to witness your tactical genius or laugh at your spectacular failures. But the real meat of the multiplayer experience is in operations mode, which deserves its own analysis because it's basically what happens when the developers ask, what if we made the campaign but more? These aren't just random missions thrown together, they're stories that run parallel to the main campaign, showing you what other Space Marine squads were doing while Titus was off having his character development moments. Each operations mission feels like you're experiencing the "meanwhile elsewhere" segments that every good war movie needs. While Titus is dealing with his trust issues and chainsawing through the main plot, your custom Space Marine squad is handling equally important but slightly less cinematically dramatic situations. It's like being the B team in an action movie. Technically, you're saving the world too, but nobody's going to make a propaganda vid about it. The mission variety is impressive. You'll find yourself defending evacuation points while civilians flee from Tyranid swarms, which is like playing tower defense, except the towers can run out of ammunition and the enemies want to add your biomass to their collective. Other missions have you infiltrating chaos-held positions to recover critical intelligence, because apparently even in the far future, corporate espionage is still a thing. One particularly memorable operation involves holding a bridge against seemingly endless waves of hormagaunts, while a tech priest tries to activate some ancient machinery. The tech priest takes approximately 17 hours to complete what should be a 5-minute task, because apparently even in the 41st millennium, IT support is still terrible. You'll spend most of the mission wondering if you should have just shot the machine and hoped for the best. Compared to other recent 40K releases, Space Marine 2 feels refreshingly focused. It's not trying to be a grand strategy game or a complex RPG. It just wants to let you be a nearly indestructible super soldier in a universe where everything is trying to kill you. It's like comfort food, but the comfort comes from chainsawing aliens. The game avoids the trap of overcomplicating the 40K formula. You don't need to manage resources or make complex moral choices. You just need to point your weapons at the enemies and pull the trigger until they stop moving. It's therapeutic in a way that would deeply concern mental health professionals. Space Marine 2 succeeds because it understands what makes 40K appealing: the absolute commitment to excess. Everything is bigger, louder, and more violent than it needs to be, and that's exactly the point. It's a universe where proportionate response is considered a character flaw. The game has flaws. Some missions feel repetitive, the AI occasionally forgets it's supposed to be trying to kill you, and the plot follows predictable beats. But these issues feel minor when you're shoulder-deep in Tyranid biomass, wielding weapons that violate several laws of physics. Is it perfect? No. Is it a faithful adaptation of the 40K experience? Absolutely. Will it make you want to spend your life savings on tiny plastic soldiers while questioning your relationship with consumerism? Probably. But that's not necessarily the game's fault. I give Space Marine 2 a rating of 31K out of 40K Warhammers, with bonus points for making me feel like a genetically modified killing machine without requiring actual genetic modification. It's like meditation, but instead of finding inner peace, you achieve enlightenment through the rhythmic hum of chainsword engines. The game reminds us that sometimes the best solution to life's problems is to approach them with overwhelming firepower and unwavering faith in your cause. This is terrible life advice, but excellent gaming philosophy. In conclusion, Space Marine 2 is what happens when developers understand their source material and aren't afraid to embrace its inherent absurdity. It's a game that knows what it is and delivers exactly what it promises: the opportunity to be a walking war crime in service of humanity's most dysfunctional civilization. Remember to like, subscribe, and praise the Emperor.
for the Emperor, and for the algorithm.